My name is Nika, and the day my father screamed, "Get out and stay out," while pointing at the front door like I was some criminal, I didn't cry. I didn't beg. I simply looked him in the eye, nodded once, and walked out into the rain with nothing but my phone and the clothes on my back. What he didn't know, what none of them knew, was that I'd just closed a deal that morning worth $22 million. And by sunset the next day, I'd be standing in the living room of my Santa Fe estate, watching the desert turn gold through floor to ceiling windows, while they scrambled to understand what just happened. Have you ever been so thoroughly underestimated that it became your greatest weapon? Let me back up. I grew up in a family where love was conditional and respect was earned through silence. My father, Richard Castellanos, built a modest real estate empire in Albuquerque. Nothing spectacular, but enough to give him an ego the size of Texas. My older brother, Marco, was the golden child, groomed from birth to take over the business. I was the daughter, the afterthought, the one who was supposed to marry well and look pretty at company functions. My mother died when I was 12. Cancer took her slowly, and with her went any softness in our house. My father threw himself into work, and Marco learned that cruelty could be disguised as ambition. I learned to be invisible. But invisible doesn't mean stupid. While Marco partied through college on dad's dime and barely scraped by with a business degree from a school that accepted anyone with a checkbook, I earned a full scholarship to Stanford. I studied finance and computer science, worked 3 jobs, graduated summa cum laude, and came home with plans to revolutionize our family business with property technology, virtual tours, AI-driven market analysis, blockchain contracts. My father laughed in my face. "Stick to what you know, Nika. Maybe help with social media or something." Marco smirked from across the conference table. "Yeah, sis, leave the real work to people who understand it." So I did exactly that. I left. I took a job at a tech startup in San Francisco that was developing software for real estate investors. I wasn't just good at it, I was exceptional. Within 6 months, I'd redesigned their entire user interface and created an algorithm that could predict property value fluctuations with 87% accuracy. Within a year, I was leading a team. Within 2 years, I was VP of development with stock options that would have made my father weep if he'd bothered to ask about my life. But he never asked. None of them did. I'd call home every few weeks. The conversations were always the same. Dad would talk about Marco's latest brilliant deal, which usually meant he'd barely broken even on a property flip. Marco would get on the line and make jokes about California liberals and tech bubbles. I'd bite my tongue, ask about their health, and hang up feeling hollower each time. Then came the family reunion dinner, 3 months ago. I flew home for Dad's 65th birthday. I'd bought him an expensive watch, something tasteful and classic. I showed up in a simple black dress, my hair pulled back, trying to blend in and just get through the evening without conflict. The restaurant was one of those upscale places where Dad liked to show off. Extended family filled a private room, aunts, uncles, cousins I barely knew. Marco was there with his new fiancée, Vanessa, a woman who looked at me like I was something she'd scraped off her Louboutins. Dinner started pleasantly enough. Dad held court, telling stories about the old days, about properties he'd bought for nothing and sold for fortunes, embellishing with every retelling. Marco added his own tales of genius, taking credit for deals I knew our father had orchestrated while he played golf. Then, my Aunt Rosa, bless her meddling heart, asked me about my job. "Oh, Nika's doing some computer thing in California," my father said, waving his hand dismissively. "Still waiting for her to grow up and come home to do real work." The table laughed, not maliciously, just casually, the way people laugh at a familiar joke. Something inside me cracked. "Actually," I said quietly, "I'm the VP of development at PropTech Solutions. We just secured Series C funding at a valuation of $300 million. My equity stake is worth about $18 million, and I'm being headhunted by 2 major venture capital firms to start my own company." The laughter died. The table went silent. My father's face turned red. "Don't exaggerate, Nika. It's unbecoming. I'm not exaggerating. I can show you the documents if you'd like. Marco snorted. Right. Our little sister is a millionaire. Dad, she's clearly making this up for attention. I pulled out my phone, opened my banking app, and slid it across the table to my father. My checking account balance sat at just over $2 million, money I'd been saving for a real estate investment of my own. The color drained from his face. Then it came back, twice as red, but now it was rage instead of embarrassment. You've been sitting on this kind of money while your family struggles? While Marco and I work ourselves to the bone trying to keep the business afloat? I stared at him. Struggles? You just bought a new Escalade last month. And I didn't think you wanted anything from me, considering you've made it clear for years that I'm not part of the real business. Don't you dare talk to me like that. After everything I've done for you, you ungrateful. Everything you've done. You laughed at my dreams. You dismissed my education. You haven't asked about my life in years, except to mock it. Marco stood up. Dad, let me handle this. Nika, you always were a selfish brat. You go off to California, abandon your family, and now you come back flashing money like you're better than us? I never said I was better than anyone. I just answered a question. You embarrassed Dad in front of the whole family, Marco hissed. You couldn't just be humble, could you? Had to show off. Vanessa put her hand on Marco's arm. Maybe we should all calm down. Stay out of this. My father snapped at her, then turned back to me. You know what your problem is, Nika. You think you're smart, you think you're special, but you're just a cold, arrogant woman who's going to end up alone because no one can stand to be around you. The words hit like physical blows. Around the table, my relatives studied their plates, their drinks, the wallpaper, anything but my face. I stood up slowly, my legs shaking, but my voice steady. I came here to celebrate your birthday. I came here because despite everything, you're still my father, and I still love you. But I won't sit here and be spoken to like this. Then leave, my father said. If we're such terrible people, if we're so beneath you, then get out. Dad, I started. Get out and stay out, he roared, pointing at the door. Go back to California with all your money and your superiority. You're not welcome here anymore. The entire restaurant had gone quiet. Diners at other tables stared. A waiter froze mid-step. I looked at my father, at Marco's satisfied smirk, at my relatives' averted eyes. I picked up my purse, placed Dad's birthday present on the table. He didn't deserve it, but I'd bought it with love and I wouldn't take it back, and walked out. It was raining. I stood in the parking lot, letting the water soak through my dress, and called my assistant. Andrea, I need you to do something for me. Remember that Santa Fe property we looked at last month? The estate? Make an offer, cash, $22 million. I want it closed in 30 days. Nika, are you sure? I'm sure. And Andrea. Start looking at commercial properties in Albuquerque, big ones. I'm coming home. The next 30 days were a blur of paperwork, lawyers, and planning. I didn't tell anyone in my family what I was doing. I didn't post on social media or brag to mutual friends. I simply worked. The Santa Fe estate closed on schedule. 15 acres of high desert paradise, a main house with 6 bedrooms and walls of glass that frame the mountains like living paintings, a guest house, a studio, and gardens that look like something from a dream. I hired designers, bought furniture that cost more than my father's first house, and moved in quietly. Then I started buying in Albuquerque. My father's company was struggling. I'd known that for months from contacts in the industry. Marco had made some spectacularly bad investments, and Dad was too proud to admit he was in over his head. They had 3 commercial properties they were trying to unload, desperate for cash flow. I bought all 3, through a shell corporation, so they never knew it was me. I paid fair market value, nothing cruel, but I made sure the deals closed fast so they couldn't shop around for better offers. With that capital, they stabilized. For about a week. Then I made my next move. I'd been developing something in secret for months, a new platform that combined AI property analysis with blockchain verification and virtual reality walkthroughs. It was everything I'd wanted to bring to my father's company years ago, but better, refined, revolutionary. I'd brought in two of my former Stanford professors as advisors and secured patents on the core technology. I launched it at a real estate technology conference in Las Vegas. The response was immediate and overwhelming. Within a week, I had contracts with 3 major real estate firms. Within 2 weeks, two of Dad's biggest clients called him to say they were switching to my platform. He called me for the first time in 2 months. "What the hell are you doing, Nika?" "Running a business, Dad." "Isn't that what you always wanted me to do?" "You're sabotaging your own family." "I'm competing in an open market. If your services were better than mine, you'd keep your clients. That's capitalism. That's what you taught me." "This is different, and you know it. You're doing this to hurt me." I took a breath, looking out at the desert sunset. "No, Dad. I'm doing this because I'm good at it. Because I have something valuable to offer. Because I worked hard and earned my success. If that hurts you, that's not my intention, but it's also not my problem." He hung up. I expected that. What I didn't expect was Marco showing up at my gate 3 days later. The security system alerted me to his car. I watched him on the camera feed, saw him staring at my house with his mouth literally hanging open. I buzzed him in, curious about what he'd say. He walked up to the front door like a man in a trance. When I opened it, he just stood there. "Holy shit, Nika. This place is mine." "What do you want, Marco?" He shook his head, trying to compose himself. "I came to talk. Can I come in?" I stepped aside. He walked through my entryway. Marble floors, a chandelier that cost $60,000, art on the walls that would make a gallery curator weep, and into the living room, where the view stretched forever. "Jesus Christ," he whispered. "You said you wanted to talk." He turned to face me, and for the first time in our lives, I saw uncertainty in his eyes. "You're really doing this. You're really going after Dad's business." "I'm running my own business. If that affects his, so be it." "Nika, he's our father. He told me to get out and stay out. I'm respecting his wishes." He was angry. He didn't mean it. Didn't he? "Marco, be honest with yourself for once. When has Dad ever respected me? When have you?" He shifted uncomfortably. "Look, I know we've given you a hard time." "A hard time? You've spent my entire life treating me like I'm worthless, like I'm some burden you have to tolerate. And the one time I try to show you who I really am, what I've accomplished, Dad literally screamed at me in public and threw me out of the family. He's proud. You humiliated him." I answered a question truthfully. If the truth humiliated him, that's on him, not me. Marco ran his hand through his hair, a gesture I recognized from our childhood when he was stressed. "Nika, please. The business is in trouble. We're hemorrhaging clients. If you keep this up, we'll lose everything." "Then maybe you should have built a better business. We need your help." I laughed, actually laughed. "Now you need my help. Not when I offered it 5 years ago with ideas that could have put you ahead of the curve. Not when I came home with a Stanford degree and expertise in the exact technology that's revolutionizing the industry. Now, when I'm your competition and winning, now you need my help." "What do you want? An apology?" "Fine. I'm sorry. We're sorry. Dad's sorry, even if he won't say it. Please, just stop. Or work with us, merge with us, something." I walked to the window, looked out at my land, my view, my peace. "You know what's funny, Marco? I don't hate you. I don't even hate Dad. I'm just done pretending that your approval matters to me." "So that's it? You're just going to watch the family business crumble?" "That's not my family's business. That's Dad's business. That's your business. I have my own family now. My team, my partners, my investors, people who actually value what I bring to the table. They're my family." "Blood is blood, Nika. Blood is just biology. Family is who shows up for you, who believes in you, who celebrates your success instead of resenting it. I turned to face him. You and Dad had every chance to be that family. You chose not to be. I'm not angry about it anymore. I'm just done. He stared at me for a long moment. You've changed? No, Marco, I've just stopped pretending to be smaller than I am to make you feel bigger. He left after that. I watched his car disappear down my driveway and felt nothing but quiet relief. Over the next 3 months, my business exploded. I hired 30 new employees, opened an office in Albuquerque and another in Phoenix. My platform became the industry standard for commercial real estate analysis in the Southwest. I was featured in Forbes, interviewed on CNBC, invited to speak at conferences worldwide. My father's business didn't crumble. That was never my goal. They adapted, found a niche in residential properties, scaled down to something manageable. Marco actually turned out to be decent at the smaller, more personal side of real estate. They survived, just not as the big players they'd imagined themselves to be. I heard through mutual contacts that Dad told people I'd betrayed the family, that I'd stolen his clients through underhanded tactics, that I was cold and vengeful. Some people believed him. Most people in the industry knew better. They'd seen my work. They knew quality when they saw it. The real turning point came 6 months after that birthday dinner. I was at a charity gala in Santa Fe, something for education funding, a cause I cared about. I donated $100,000 and agreed to say a few words about the importance of supporting students from underprivileged backgrounds. I was at my table between speeches, talking to a venture capitalist about a potential investment opportunity, when someone touched my shoulder. I turned around and saw my Aunt Rosa. Nika, sweetheart, can we talk? I excused myself and walked with her to a quiet corner. She looked older than I remembered, more fragile. Your father had a heart attack last week. Everything stopped. What? Is he? He's okay. It was mild, but it scared him. Scared all of us. She took my hand. Nika, I know what happened at his birthday. I know what he said to you. And, honey, I need you to know that not everyone agreed with how he treated you. Then why didn't anyone say anything? Because we're cowards. She said it simply, with the weight of truth. Because it's easier to stay quiet than to stand up to Richard when he's on a tear. But watching you these past months, seeing what you've built, reading about your success, Nika, we're proud of you. I'm proud of you. And your father. She paused, choosing her words carefully. He's too stubborn to say it, but he's proud too, and terrified, because he finally understands what he lost when he pushed you away. Rosa, I didn't come to his birthday to start a war. I know that. We all know that. You were just being honest. But Richard built his whole identity on being the successful patriarch, and when you showed him up, his ego couldn't handle it. She squeezed my hand. That doesn't make what he did right, but maybe, after everything that's happened, maybe there's room for, I don't know, not forgiveness necessarily, but understanding? Has he asked to see me? She hesitated. No, but he asks about you. Reads every article. Drove past your estate last month just to see it from the road. He's too proud to reach out. But Nika, I think he's ready to listen if you're ready to talk. I thought about that for a long moment. Thought about pride and pain. About the father who'd dismissed me, and the daughter who'd proven him wrong. About the cost of being right, and the price of family. Tell him I'm sorry he had a heart attack, I finally said. Tell him I hope he takes care of himself. And tell him that when he's ready to have a conversation as equals, not as father and disappointing daughter, but as two adults who both built something meaningful, I'll be here. That's all? That's all. I won't beg for his approval anymore, Rosa. I won't shrink myself to fit his expectations. But I'm not cruel. If he wants a relationship with me, he knows where to find me. The door isn't locked, but I'm not walking through his first. She hugged me then, And I let her. And it felt like the first, genuine family connection I'd had in years. 3 weeks later, my father called. Not Marco as a messenger, not Rosa as an intermediary. Him. Nika, it's Dad. I heard about your heart attack. How are you feeling? Fine, good. Doctor says I need to slow down, reduce stress. A pause. Listen, I'd like to see your house, if that's okay, if the invitation still stands. I looked around my living room, my sanctuary, my proof, my peace. Yeah, Dad, it's okay. Come Saturday around noon. Okay, should I bring anything? Just yourself. Saturday came with the kind of crisp autumn clarity that makes New Mexico famous. I made coffee and pastries, set them out on the terrace overlooking the valley, and waited. His truck pulled up right at noon. He got out slowly, moving like a man who'd suddenly realized his mortality. He looked up at my house, my palace really, and I saw his face cycle through emotions: shock, pride, envy, regret, wonder. I met him at the door. Hi, Dad. Nika. He swallowed hard. This place is, I had no idea. Come in, I'll give you a tour. I showed him everything, not to gloat, but to share. This was who I was now, what I'd built, the life I'd created. He walked through it all in silence, touching things gently like he was afraid they might disappear, staring at the art and the architecture and the endless views. Finally, we ended up on the terrace with coffee. 22 million, he said quietly. Rosa told me you paid cash. I did. Nika, I never understood what you were capable of. I tried to tell you. I know, God, I know. He set down his coffee cup with shaking hands. I was so sure I knew everything. So sure that because I'd built something, I understood how success worked. And when you came home with all these ideas about technology and algorithms, it just sounded like nonsense to me. Like you were trying to fix something that wasn't broken. The industry was changing, Dad. It still is. I see that now. I see what you've built, and I understand that you were trying to help us evolve. But all I could see was my daughter telling me my way was wrong, and my ego couldn't take it. And at the birthday dinner, he winced. I was ambushed. I didn't know you'd done so well for yourself because I never asked. And when you told everyone, when I saw the numbers, all I could feel was this crushing embarrassment that my daughter had lapped me, and I never even noticed. So I lashed out. I made you the problem instead of admitting that I'd been blind. You told me to get out and stay out. I know, Christ, Nika, I know. And you did. You got out and you bought this place and you started a company that's destroying my business. And it's exactly what I deserved. I'm not trying to destroy your business. Aren't you? I met his eyes. No, Dad, I'm trying to build mine. If that has consequences for you, then maybe you should have thought about that before you spent my entire life teaching me that success means crushing the competition. I learned that from you. I'm just better at it than you expected. He laughed then, a broken sound that might have been a sob. You are. You're better at everything than I gave you credit for. And the hell of it is, Nika, I'm proud of you. Seeing what you've accomplished, the respect you've earned in the industry, the way people talk about your innovations. I'm proud, and I'm ashamed that I never told you that when it mattered. It matters now, Dad, if you mean it. I mean it. I'm so sorry for the birthday dinner. I'm sorry for every dismissive word, every joke at your expense, every time I made you feel like you weren't good enough. You were always good enough. You were exceptional. I was just too threatened to admit it. I felt tears starting, fought them back. Do you know what it's like being dismissed by the people who are supposed to love you unconditionally? Do you know how many times I accomplished something amazing and came home excited to share it, only to have you brush it off or change the subject? I can't imagine. But Nika, I want to learn. I want to know about your work, your life, everything I missed, if you'll let me. It's not about letting you, Dad. It's about whether you actually care, or whether this is just about feeling better about yourself after your heart attack scared you. He looked out at the valley and I saw him struggling. Both. It's both. The heart attack made me realize I'm mortal and I don't want to die with you hating me. But also, honestly, I miss you. I miss my daughter. Not the daughter I wanted you to be, but the daughter you actually are. The brilliant, fierce, successful woman who built all this. I want to know her. She's the same person she always was, Dad. You just weren't looking. Then let me look now, please. We sat in silence for a long time, drinking coffee and watching hawks circle over the desert. Finally, I spoke. I'm not going to scale back my business. I'm not going to make myself smaller to make you comfortable. I wouldn't ask you to. And I'm not going to pretend the birthday dinner didn't happen. You hurt me, publicly, deeply. That doesn't just go away. I know. But I'm also not interested in maintaining a Cold War forever. Life's too short, and despite everything, you're still my father. So here's what I'm offering. We start over. Not from scratch, because you can't erase the past, but from here. As adults, as equals, as two people in the same industry who can either be enemies or allies. What does that look like? Honesty, respect. You don't get to dismiss my work or my choices. I don't have to consult you on my business decisions. We have dinner once a month, neutral territory, and we talk about our lives like adults. And maybe, over time, we rebuild trust. Or maybe we just learn to coexist peacefully. But either way, the hierarchy is over. You're not the disappointed father, and I'm not the wayward daughter. We're just two people trying to figure out how to be family. I can do that, he said quietly. I want to do that. And Marco? Marco needs to have his own conversation with you. But I think he's learning some humility. Your success has been a wake-up call for both of us. Good, he needs one. Dad smiled then, sadly but genuinely. You get that iron spine from your mother, you know. She never took my shit either. God, she'd be so proud of you, Nika. She always said you were going to do something extraordinary. I wish she'd lived to see it. Me too, baby. Me too. He left an hour later, after we talked about my business and his recovery and the industry landscape. It wasn't a perfect reconciliation. There was still hurt, still distance, but it was a beginning. That night, I stood on my terrace under a sky full of stars and felt something I hadn't felt in months: peace. Not because my father had apologized, though that mattered. Not because I'd proven myself, though that felt good. But because I'd finally learned the most important lesson of all. I didn't need his validation. I never had. I'd built this life not to spite him or to prove him wrong, but because I was capable of it. Because I had value that existed independent of anyone's recognition. Because I'd stopped waiting for permission to be extraordinary. The revenge, if you could call it that, wasn't in the money or the success or the business I'd built. It was in the fact that I no longer needed revenge. I'd won by becoming so utterly myself that his opinion simply ceased to matter. 3 months later, I was back in that same Albuquerque restaurant, in that same private room for Thanksgiving dinner. But this time was different. The room was smaller, just immediate family. Dad sat at one end of the table, healthy and humbler. Marco was there with Vanessa, and he'd actually called me the week before to apologize. Haltingly, awkwardly, but sincerely. Rosa and a few cousins rounded out the gathering. Before dinner, Dad stood up with his wine glass. I want to make a toast to Nika, who showed us all what it means to have vision and courage, who built something extraordinary and did it with integrity. I'm sorry it took me so long to see you clearly, sweetheart, but I see you now. Glasses raised. Voices murmured agreement. I looked around the table at faces that finally reflected respect instead of dismissal. And I realized something. I'd gotten everything I wanted. but not because I'd taken it from them. I'd gotten it because I'd given it to myself. After dinner, Marco pulled me aside. Hey, so I had an idea. Hear me out before you say no. I'm listening. What if we didn't compete? What if we collaborated? Your platform handles commercial and my business handles residential. We refer clients to each other. We're stronger together than we are apart. Marco, you spent years telling me I didn't belong in this industry. I was wrong. I was threatened and insecure and wrong. But Nika, imagine what we could do if we actually worked together. If we combine Dad's old school relationships with your technology, we'd dominate the Southwest. I thought about the little boy who'd been taught to see me as competition instead of as a sister, about the man he was trying to become. Let me think about it. Send me a real proposal. Numbers, structure, terms. If it makes business sense, I'll consider it. Really? Really? But Marco, I meant what I said to Dad. We do this as equals or we don't do it at all. Equals, I promise. As I drove home to Santa Fe that night, desert stars bright above the highway, I thought about how far I'd come. From the girl who'd walked out in the rain to the woman who'd built an empire. From seeking approval to knowing my worth. From revenge to peace. The moral of this story isn't about vengeance or proving people wrong. It's about something deeper. The best revenge is not becoming bitter. It's not in watching your enemies fail. It's in becoming so successful, so content, so whole that their opinions become irrelevant. My father yelled at me to get out and stay out. I did. And in doing so, I discovered that I didn't need to get back in. I'd built my own door to walk through. And it opened onto a life more beautiful than anything I'd imagined while trying to earn love that should have been freely given. Sometimes the greatest victory is realizing you don't need one. Sometimes revenge is just living well enough that the fight stops mattering. And sometimes the best thing you can do for people who underestimate you is succeed so spectacularly that they have to recalibrate their entire understanding of who you are. My name is Nika Castellanos. I own a $22 million estate in Santa Fe, run a company that's revolutionizing an industry, and have a father who finally sees me clearly. But more than that, I see myself clearly. And that, in the end, is what freedom really looks like. The greatest revenge isn't in what you take from others, it's in what you become despite them.